going on, people? What's going on? Let the room warm up. Let a couple people get in here. What's going on, Devin Blossom? What's going on? What's going on? I'm gonna let the room warm up a little bit. Get a couple more people in here. Got a lot to talk about. I got an open panel today. I'm gonna open up the I'm gonna put the link in the chat. If y'all wanna come on, I'm gonna let y'all come on and cook. Got a couple of things I'm gonna talk about. Well, let me go ahead and get started. What's going on, everybody? Now tune into another episode of Boxing Matchup with your boy Dwayne Freeman. There's a lot going on today. As I'm sure y'all seen the thumbnail. We're gonna talk about Ugas taken to social media and basically telling Terrence Crawford fans stop blaming Earl. So Ugas went on social media and he came out and he was going at Bud Crawford fans saying, what's going on, Daryl? He went at Bud Crawford fans and was saying, don't blame EJ for the Ugas and EJ fight. He came out and said it. EJ and himself was working on the fight, and at the time, Bud was still with Top Rank, so there was no way for them to make the fight. Everybody know that Bob was blocking that fight or whatever, was not letting that fight happen, so there was no way for Terrence Crawford and EJ to have the fight. So Ugas basically came out and was like, I'm a champion. EJ's fighting another champion. I'm deserving of the fight. I'm deserving to be a champion. I beat the man that beat the man. Because at the time, Manny Pacquiao had got the belt from Keith Thurman. And when Terrence Crawford came into the division, that's who Terrence Crawford said was the man. It was Keith Thurman. And so Manny Pacquiao beat Keith Thurman for the WBA super belt. And he had signed a fight with Terrence Crawford. That fight fell through. Manny Pacquiao signed the paperwork. Terrence Crawford didn't sign the paperwork with the advice from the advice from his manager. And Bob said that the money didn't come for it. He wasn't going to pay for the fight. So EJ ended up signing a contract to fight Manny Pacquiao. EJ had a torn eye rectum, so he had to pull out of the Manny Pacquiao fight. And due to the fact that Earl Spence pulled out of the Manny Pacquiao fight, um, Ugas had stepped in, and so Ugas and Manny Pacquiao fought for the Super WBA belt, and as we all know, Ugas beat Manny Pacquiao. So now Ugas is the Super WBA champion, and they had agreed and signed paperwork to fight each other when Earl came back from his eye injury. But the WBA decided to put Ugas in a tournament, and so the whole time while EJ was recovering from his eye injury, they was basically working behind the scenes trying to get the WBA to get Ugas out of the tournament so that the EJ and the Ugas fight can come to fruition. And they was able to get that fight to happen. Um, Al Heyman paid step aside money for Sturdy ounces to step aside so the EJ and Ugas fight could happen. So all of the Bud Crawford fans came out and started saying that EJ was ducking Bud. He decided to fight Ugas, and Ugas was an easier fight. That's why EJ's taking the fight. He don't want to fight Bud. He's scared to fight Bud. But like I said before, EJ's always said he was going to clean up his side of the street, and then he was going to come and get that belt. So that's the last belt on his side of the street. And the next fight will be for undisputed. So at the same token, Bud Crawford had a chance to fight Ugas. Ugas had asked to fight Bud Crawford, and they turned that fight down. So so you can't say that it's a duck. It's not a duck. It's a championship fight. So if you're fighting for undisputed, the way to get undisputed is to get all of the belts. Whether he gets the belt before he fight Terrence Crawford or he gets the belt after he fights Terrence Crawford, he still has to get that belt. So you can't say that it's a duck if he's going for undisputed and he's going to get all of the fights. I mean, all of the belts. So it just don't seem like the logical thing to say that it's a duck. But of course, they're always trying to find a reason to basically put the blame on EJ when Bud's nephew had came out on another platform and said that they have been talking to Floyd Mayweather, and so they already knew that EJ was working on getting that fight back with Ugas. So all of this social media stuff that was coming out about Bud is looking for the big fish and all this stuff, that was basically all for show. It was just clout chasing. And if you notice, every time that they come out on social media and they say something about Bud, it's always, they say something about EJ, it's always something they either clowning EJ, they talking about his personal life. It's never nothing about boxing. It's always stuff other than boxing. But like I said, this is supposed to be about boxing. What the man do in his personal life is what he do in his personal life. Y'all not friends. Y'all just two fighters that fight in the same division that the fans wants to see fight for undisputed. The fight has been building up for years now, and the fans want to see it. So, but to call a man a duck, it's crazy because in the same token, you can say Bud is ducking all the times that he had the chance to accept the 60-40 and say, okay, let's make the fight now. I accept the 60-40. Just send the offer. He could have just said that and made the fight a long time ago, and we wouldn't even be in this situation right now trying to figure out if EJ's going to fight Bud or if Bud going to fight EJ. So the whole thing is crazy. But like I said, I mean, you can't call a man a duck if the man is fighting another champion and his ultimate goal is to be undisputed. He has to fight that champion anyway. So calling somebody a duck for fighting a champion, it doesn't make any sense. So I mean, like I said, Ugas came out and said no, it's not EJ's fault. EJ already been working on this fight. We had already agreed. We had already signed a contract to fight. So this fight was supposed to happen in August. It just uh EJ took the Manny Pacquiao fight because that was a legend, and he got an eye injury because he was going to fight Ugas after the Manny Pacquiao fight. Either way, he was going to fight Ugas next. Either he was going to fight Ugas before the Manny Pacquiao fight, or he was going to fight Ugas after the Manny Pacquiao fight. So he was always going to fight Ugas next. And like I said, Bud knew that. Everybody knew that because EJ has already said it from day one when he decided to become undisputed. He got that first belt with Kell Brook. He said he's going to get all the belts on his side of the street, and then he's coming over there to get the other belt. And the other belt was with Top Rank at the time, so that was a harder bargain. He couldn't. It wasn't an easy negotiation to go with PBC and Top Rank. They couldn't meet, so he just went ahead and got all of the fights that he knew would be easier negotiation. So, but I also seen um, it was on another live that I was on, and they was talking about how we got these fights coming up, and PBC is not promoting their fighters that they have. You got Gary Antoine Russell, you got Gary Russell, and you got Gary Antonio Russell, and these guys are exceptional talent, and they're only fighting once a year. But you got these other guys that's less talented than them, and they fighting 3 or 4 times a year. They being televised. But you got these talented guys that's on PBC that everybody wants to see fight, and they only fighting once a year. You're not putting them out there to get their name out there, to get the exposure, to bring the money into your company, which was the ultimate goal of you signing that fighter, is to bring the money to your side of the boxing industry. So I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like Canelo had a pay-per-view fight where he had all Mexicans on there, and then Carissa Shield had a pay-per-view fight where she had all females on it. But we haven't. I mean, I can't remember the last time I seen a pay-per-view fight where there was all black fighters, all upcoming fighters and top fighters. They was all on one pay-per-view card. I can't remember the last time I seen that, and that would be a big pay-per-view card. Just imagine you have um the two Charlo brothers. You have Gary Russell Jr. You have Gary Antoine Russell. You have Devin Haney, and you have uh, uh, um, Brian Norman Jr. You have all these guys that's upcoming, and then you have the guys that's been in the boxing for a while that has a name. All of them on one card. That's a big pay-per-view card. So I don't understand why they couldn't do something like that. I mean, you could put uh, um, Earl Spence with a Gary Antoine Russell, Brian Norman, Devin Haney, and build these fighters up. because everybody's talking about, oh, these fighters hasn't fought nobody. We haven't seen these fighters fight or whatever. Or when they do see them, they only see them once in a blue moon. So people want to see them, but they don't see them for a whole nother year. So they forget about these fighters, and that's why these fighters ain't getting no type of big ticket sales and big pay-per-view fights, because nobody hardly sees them. I mean, Tank built his name up. I mean, he's associated with Floyd Mayweather, so his name is going to be big. But then you got people over at Top Rank. They showing their fighters like 3-4 times a year. You got like Brian Norman. He fought 4 times this year, but his fights wasn't televised. And Brian Norman, the guy can fight. So I mean, you got a guy that can fight, and you're not televising his talent. And then you got people like I said, like Gary Antoine Russell. He can fight. He got skills. He got power. I mean, I believe all of his fights ended in a knockout. He might have one fight that went the distance, but the rest of his fights ended in a knockout. So you got these great talent, and you're not promoting them. I mean, what's the point of having the fighters on your roster if you're not going to promote them? You need to promote your fighters. That's the reason why you are a promotion company, to promote your fighter. That's the reason you in business, because of your fighters. If your fighters wasn't fighting, you ain't getting no money, because you're a promotion company. You get paid off the fighters. You don't get paid just for your fighters to sit at home. But yeah, so I mean, that's all I have for y'all today. I just came through with a short video. I didn't have nothing long today. I just wanted to touch on a couple of topics, and but I'll be back with more videos probably later on this evening, because I got some stuff I'm working on. So make sure you like, share my video, and I'll be back with y'all. It's your boy, Boxing Matchups.